Zoom meeting title on Zoom. What the hell? Okay. Preparing to stream live the meeting. Let's change the title of that real quick. Hold on a second. Okay, there's redirecting to YouTube. All right, so okay. Edit the video and add the video to proper title. Okay, Bobb, or Bobb Group. Former Oakland CAO on NFL football in Oakland, Black Lives Matter. Yeah. Black Lives Matter. There, okay. Got that. Oops, and that, okay. Saving that. Cool, all right. And let me turn up something here. Okay. Your mic, I can't hear your mic. Yeah, your speech. Yeah. I can't hear you. Can you hear me? Let's see. Okay. Give me a sound count. That's wild. Hold on. Okay, my mic's working. Oh, you're connecting to audio. Cool. Okay. Yeah. Now we're ready.
Now we're good.
All right. Woohoo. Answer's already live. Might as well. Hey, everybody.
Hey, how you doing, Denny?
I love the 21st century. Never better, my man.
All right, it's all good, man.
Outstanding.
You're the best, Denny.
Oh, man, I don't know about that. You know what? I'm a basket case is what I am. That's outstanding. A complete.
You're the best, Denny.
Complete. I don't know about that. You know what? I'm a basket case is what I. And so basically, what I'm doing here is I'm making absolutely certain that the YouTube version of this is, and it is working. These are the things you have to do with Zoom versus StreamYard, and because it's that way, folks. And so now this is on Facebook, and boom, and this is on Twitter, and Oakland. Okay. And then okay. Hashtag Oakland and then hashtag NFL, and then boom. Okay. Yeah. All right. So we are, and then create post and say live now. And that's it. All right. And get out of that thing. We can get on the other thing. Maybe talk to good things. Okay. All right, man.
So you've become a Cal Berkeley techno nerd, huh?
Go Bears. That's all I got to say, man, through all this. Go Bears. But you got Grambling on, man. That's more important.
Grambling State, the Grambling State University, the place where everybody is somebody.
That's right. And the place where Doug Williams.
Yeah, Doug Williams. I mean, we had more NFL stars than any national football team. You know, we have Doug, we have Shaq Harris, we have man, so many greats.
Yeah.
I was in school with Alan with a number of the stars back in the 60s, you know. But
what do you remember most about going to school at Grambling back then?
What's that?
What do you remember most?
What do I remember the most?
Yeah.
I remember, you know, Grambling's theme is the place where everybody is somebody. And at the university, what it does, I mean, what it did back then, and as is tradition today, is that it embraced every student, no matter what their lifestyles were, where their parents were. And many of the students who attended Grambling came from parents where these students were the first generation to attend colleges and universities. And it was a cultural experience. I mean, when I was at Grambling State, for example, every student were required on Sunday to attend a church of their choice. So the barracks, well, I said the barracks because I lived in the barracks for a minute, but all the barracks, the dormitories were emptied on Sunday morning. And every student attended some, whether it's Catholic or a church of their choice. That was one of the requirements. And in the evening, they had something called Vesper services, where they introduced the students to concerts, to lectures on Sunday evening, and everyone wore a shirt and tie on Sundays. So it was a family atmosphere, and it still is a family atmosphere today. And so that's when they coined the theme that Grambling State University is a place where everybody is somebody.
How did we get away from how did we get away from shirts and ties?
I don't know. I mean, generations changes, of course. It's still it's a university based on very strong religious values. And of course, the university is located in the Bible Belt of Louisiana. And those of us who came from Southern Louisiana, we were from Catholicism was our main religion. But Grambling embraced that because there was a small chapel on campus for the Catholic students as well.
I got to ask you, and I think it's a good way to, we can ease into that other part of the conversation, but because we haven't talked since George Floyd, and all of these events just seem to basically literally happen in our face moment by moment by moment. What are your thoughts about what we've seen, we're going through? For example, the lady that was supposedly one that, or the people that set fire to the Wendy's was just released from jail today after the Rayshard Brooks funeral was held. What do you think about all this, and how has this impacted you?
Well, it has impacted me not only professionally, but more importantly, personally. I mean, how could I mean, there have been so many tragic deaths with police violence. I mean, where police have actually killed African Americans, both men and women. And it's not an indictment of an entire police department, but it is definitely an indictment of those who are bad cops. And when you saw the George's death in Minneapolis and what occurred there, I mean, it just ignited a whole nation around the whole. It escalated the issue around Black Lives Matter. And how can anyone watch that video who is a Black person, African American, and not have it bring tears to their eyes? And I have sons, and I can imagine how I would feel as a parent were it with one of my sons. And I can tell you, then were it not for that young lady who took the video, I think she was 17 years of age, by news reports, were it not for her, and the fact that she was able to take that video and thought about taking that video and tried to get the cops to let him up, I think we'd have a different outcome today, were it not for her. So the justice system has to do its job. But when you think of that young person with the mindset that she had to take that video, and she is the one who really helped to ignite a movement. And it has gone on it's still going on. And what we're seeing is significant reforms that are taking place in law enforcement. by city council members. We have it now by members of Congress. President of the United States has his plan. But peaceful demonstration now combined with some of the more radicalized demonstrations. I mean, in the neighborhood where my office is located, we're literally 1 block from the 2 blocks, a block and a park from the White House. Around the corner from my office is 16th and K Street, Black Lives Plaza. The Episcopal Church is only a block around the corner from my
I know
office.
exactly where that is. I know exactly where that is. Yep.
Right. And Regis Hotel is right in that block. And then there's another famous hotel in that block. And my office, where my office is located today, we still have police that have cordoned off the block of 16th and 8th Street, as well as 17th and 8th Street, and the streets leading into the park, which then leads to the former Pennsylvania Avenue, which is which is now a park, and which also leads over to the White House. And so we're right where my office is located. I never thought that I would see in that neighborhood so many businesses that are, with plywood. Even the office building that I was in had, plywood to protect itself. And what I was telling someone today, interestingly enough, all those businesses are, with plywood and everything. The one business in that block, which has no plywood on it, is FedEx. Okay, you figure that one out, Denny. I cannot figure that one out. Even a Starbucks, which is on the corner of 16th and K Street, has plywood all around, and then I think the door leading into the Starbucks has plywood.
I figured it out. You know why? Because it absolutely, positively has to be there overnight.
It's open 24 hours. That's for sure. And the area around, of course, you have the protests that are taking place, but the food truck vendors have already moved into the area. And the t-shirt salespersons are there as well. But it's what's interesting though, Zenny, when you look at the protest that's taking place at least in our town here in the District of Columbia, and I have to applaud the leadership of our mayor and the city administration. And what we find is very interesting is that you have the Secret Service police, you have all of the law enforcement agencies that have been brought in by the President of the United States. But our police officers and police officers all around this country are required to have a name badge, right?
Mm-hmm.
So all of these officers who came in from different places, none of them had identifying badges on. So you have, they were law enforcement, but for a District of Columbia police officer, he or she, they have their name tags on. But here we have all these other law enforcement agencies, and we cannot identify none of these police officers vis-a-vis a badge that they wore. Now, there is no excuse for rioting and burning of buildings, but protesting peacefully, making our voices heard, those are important things that will bring about change in this nation. And at the end of the day, we're going to applaud the fact that the changes that are taking place, whether we agree or disagree, at the end of the day, are going to be positive changes because now we have people talking. And another thing that is a stark reminder to all of us when we see these protests is that it's not like when I was growing up and you had the civil rights marches and it was predominantly African-American, with a sprinkling with a few whites who were sympathetic to our cause. What you have is protesters that really look like America.
Yeah.
and you have a lot of whites, and you have people of color coming together for a common cause around the tragedy that occurred. You know, I saw it in Oakland. I was telling someone that when the protest started in Oakland, and as you notice as an Oaklander, it doesn't take much to gather, put a crowd together.
Not at all.
It doesn't.
No.
And bad things happen. I mean, the tragic loss of a former police officer in Oakland, which was shot and killed. We had the same thing happen, I believe it was in St. Louis. You have hundreds of police officers who've been injured, but also you have hundreds of protesters themselves who've been injured as well. And so I'm heartened by the fact that at the end of the day, something very positive is going to come out of it. We cannot have police officers who are, killing Black individuals, right? But at the same time, we still have to have law and order. And so there's got to be a balance there someplace. And there are people who are working hard to find the right balance.
I'm keen on you and ask this question regarding, well, two issues that have been burning in Oakland, in addition to NFL football, but really more front and center. One of them is defund the police. And I heard you've heard that thousands of times a day, maybe subconsciously. What are your thoughts on that? And then the other question has to do with something that's really personally bothering me. It's never happened to me, but I just hate seeing it. Why is it that it seems like Black police officers, in some cases, are even harder on us than their white counterparts? And I'm thinking specifically about six Atlanta police officers that basically manhandled these kids, college students who were innocently driving, had no idea there was a curfew, and could have very well killed them. And of the 6, 5 were Black, and they're all fired. But getting back to my first of the two questions, the defund the police movement, your thoughts?
I don't believe that we should. I'm not a supporter of defunding the police. I am a supporter of making sure that the police are adequately funded, but not to the extent that we're funding the police to the degree that we're not funding all of the social service issues that the community needs. And so we have to strike that balance. For example, we can't say that we, on a percentage basis, we're providing police officers in schools at a higher percentage than we're funding school psychologists, that we're funding on a percentage basis or on a per capita basis, that we're funding all of these, the other programs and services that are required. Let's say I'm using the school system as an example, where you have police resource officers, which are necessary, and then you have school security, which also is necessary, but you can't have a budget so large for those activities on a percentage basis where you're funding those at a higher percentage than you're funding school counselors, school psychologists, special services for children of need. And so you have to strike that balance. And so there's always been the rush to add more money for police officers. And so we have to find that balance. And I would say that probably as a city administrator, city manager, I probably was on the side of providing more police. I remember I was manager of the city doing the crack cocaine. In a small city like Richmond, Virginia, where in some years they may have had 50 murders or 30 murders, but in the height of the crack cocaine had 160 murders in 1 year. In a small community, the murder capital of the country. So we have to find a balance. And to defund the police is a nice slogan, but at the end of the day, who are you going to call when someone is breaking into your home? And so we have to strike that balance.
There are people who believe that just the better answer is what's going on in Camden, New Jersey, with their police force. What are your thoughts on that before we shift to football?
Oh, you mean where they defunded the police department and they created something different?
Yeah.
I mean, I think in smaller communities you can provide an alternative source of an alternative methodology of providing public safety services. When I was city manager in Kalamazoo, Michigan, many years ago, and it's still there today, I literally eliminated the police and fire department and created a Department of Public Safety, wherein those individuals who fight fire are the same individuals who fight crime. And Department of Public Safety, and it still operates significantly today, where you add more resources on the street than you had if you were to fund a traditional police or a traditional fire department. Smaller communities that would work, larger communities that would be almost impossible to do something very similar.
So in all this, Stern and Drum and controversy, we have a call to bring together the first African-American investment group to bring pro football back to Oakland. And what are your thoughts?
I think it would be a significant moment for a city like Oakland. I mean, let's remember Oakland has such a traditional history. I mean, Bill Russell from McClymonds High School, Kirk Flood. I mean, you're talking about individuals who, like Bill Russell was the first African-American coach to coach championship basketball teams. And then, of course, the free agency issues started with Kirk Flood, right?
Yep.
It's a lawsuit that made it possible for baseball players to become multimillionaires. And then you have from my home state, you had the lefty drawing a blank who pitched for the Oakland Athletics. And then we have the #1 base stealer so Oakland is a sports town, but Oakland is also a community that have raised the consciousness of America in good or bad, however you want to judge it, from the Black Panther movement, home of Oakland, the Hells Angels, so why not Oakland becoming the first community in America where, to create, the NFL, of course, would have to agree, the funding would have to come in place. I mean, that's a long runway, but why not Oakland? It's a sports town. It has a tradition of, if you think about it, then and you've been right in the center of this, but think about it. But what some would consider to be a small market city, right? If it weren't attached to San Francisco, it would probably be one of the smallest markets in the U.S. We weren't in the Bay Area, but it had like professional basketball, professional football, professional baseball. So it has a tradition. Now, to make this happen, I would hope that the city council would embrace and give this group an opportunity to put something together. And I would hope that the National Football League would give them some runway to see whether or not this is in fact possible. Now, if the city of Oakland moves forward with its plans to sell significant acreage of the Coliseum site to the owners of the Oakland Athletics, then it becomes a moot issue, because I have no idea where you would build a football stadium in the city of Oakland.
What about making the A's a partner?
That would be fantastic. That would be a great move.
I mean, that would be my first step. I mean, I would not, my first call would be to Dave Cavall. I have, it's not my call, but that would be my first call and say, hey, look, first of all, I want your architect. Second of all, I want your blessing.
Right. Yeah, if they all would come together, but that's at the end of the day, really don't know where the money is going to come from, right? And also, you have no idea what the NFL position is on it. You're closer to the NFL than I am. I mean, if they're going to put a team in London, why not bring a team back to the Bay Area in the city of Oakland?
Well, the other cause, I'd have you involved because you were instrumental in bringing the Expos from Montreal to Washington to become the Washington Nationals. So you're not a dude on a stoop, okay? You know something about handling the bureaucracy and forming a bureaucracy to get this done. And in that, I thought what should be done, and like your feedback on, is I think the A should be a partner. And I think what we should do if we were involved and I were asked is, I think my first call would be to Jerry Jones, other than Roger Goodell, and I would try to I would say that we should form a group of owners that say, you know what, we want to be in Oakland, and then we get Mark Davis on board because he's in Vegas, right? And that way we don't have to worry about the votes. We've got the votes, right? That's how I would do it, you know.
Well, no one would be better at mapping this out than you, but I would definitely.
Somebody thinks otherwise. That's fine.
You know what they say, don't they? They can think what the hell they want to, right? But at the end of the day, the strategy of bringing the owner of the baseball team, assuming they want to be part of it, along with the African American community, and some type of joint venture, wherein you can bring football back to Oakland. You can have in a new stadium. You can have a new stadium with respect to the Oakland Athletics. And of course, the new state legislation provides an opportunity for the city to win, as well as for the owners of either team to win, and a greater win even on further economic development. So the state new legislation, which replaced the old redevelopment act, gives great incentives. I think it's pretty revolutionary, and that would make all these things possible. But it does take, the only way it's going to happen, in my opinion, is much like what happened with baseball coming back to the district, with the Montreal Expos relocating here. It takes the leadership at City Hall. It takes an advocate within the political arena to bring people together. It takes some risk, as it were, and to make it happen. I mean, it has to be viewed in a long-term situation. Now, I can tell you what happens generally, and I'm not saying it happened in Oakland. I mean, if you look at municipalities today, given the fact that, with the pandemic, with the declining in revenues and the shock of declining revenues, with the shock of having to use your undesignated fund balance now to keep basic city services alive, all of the additional costs that municipalities are going through, having to cover vis-a-vis all of the protests that are taking place, those are costs. In addition to the pandemic, you'll find that more and more municipalities, that someone were to offer them money to purchase a facility, the city's going to say, well, I need that money to keep basic city services alive, and therefore I would rush to do it, to make a deal. But that's short term. You're assuming that the pandemic is going to be here for the next 5 years. So sometimes you have to struggle your way through and look at the long game as opposed to the short game, no matter how difficult that short game might be. And then it takes a lot of courage to say, okay, we're going to focus on the long game, because this thing will not last forever. I mean, how many communities that you've seen that have gone into Chapter 9 bankruptcy, but now, and they were able to emerge stronger, right?
Yeah. How do they contact you to hire you? I have the Robert Bobb Group as a consultants and turnaround experts.
Well, we would not turn down any engagement. I mean, we've been contacted just today to help.
Yeah, this is a pitch.
We've been contacted just today to help a city that's in a Chapter 9 bankruptcy, and we're looking forward to working on one of those types of projects. I mean, it takes courage, takes a hard decision, and the reason why they should hire us is that when they're in struggle, then you can blame the consultants. We're like, you can blame us for pushing for the harder decisions, because as I tell my consulting team, we are not there for the long term. We're there to do our job, make the hard decision, work with the local officials, and then move on and give them a plan for recovery. I mean, we actually take individuals off of our team if they don't understand that our job is not to try and look for some 5-year, engagement like many of the big accounting firms, I'm not accounting, big firms are looking for. I mean, having long-term is fine, but when you're in a restructuring turnaround, their job is to go in there and make the hard decision, take the slings and arrows because they come, take the threats because they come, do your job, and hopefully give a good plan of recovery, and then move on.
Hey, by the way, how would you handle, and before we go, and out of respect for your time, NFL football hopefully is coming back this fall, but my thought is, in a pandemic, when you have, for example, Clark County posting $1 billion budget deficit, how in hell are they supposed to provide police services to a football game? Where are they going to get the money from if you also have the football organization with its own cash issues because all of its sponsors haven't paid?
Well, I think those are real tough decisions to make, but you can't dismiss the fact that, if sports is going to come back without fans, you're going to have to provide some level of safety. If for no other reason, you're going to have to provide some traffic control, right? And then the municipality has its own budget challenges, but they've made this investment, billions of dollars of investments, and I'm assuming that some revenue is going to come back as a from television and radio and some of those, but you're not going to have the food vendors because you want to have the people, but you probably have some food vendors on the street because you're going to have some folks out there who want to take a glimpse at the teams, if for no other reason, the bus that's carrying the teams to those, and you're going to have some income from hotels because they have to stay somewhere. So there will be some economy as a result of these sports teams coming back. But it will not be as robust as it was last year when we didn't have the pandemic.
Hey, Robert, I'll shut this down and call you to debrief. Everybody, thank you very much for tuning in. Subscribe to Zenny62 if you haven't done so before. And for those of you who don't know, this live stream will be a video on demand within seconds, and then on Google News in minutes. News app, smart app, and Apple News too. All right. Thanks, everybody. Thanks, Mr. Bobb. See ya.
Thank you, Denny. Good luck.
Thanks.